Hey, on this episode of Successfully Live, Boaz talks about the Customer Maturity Index. He discusses why your existing health score is not enough, the insights that you will gain when using the Maturity Index, and how to start. It's a great episode. You're going to learn a lot.
Small startup, few tens of customers, mapped his customers around customer maturity and had a conversation with their board of directors. He said people were eye-opened on understanding how many of their customers are actually not right for them at this point in time.
Welcome to another episode of Successfully Live. It's Adam O'Donnell, co-founder of Successfully. Today I'm excited to be here with Boaz. Thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
And he's had a lot of experience being in VP of customer success roles. You've worked at companies like WalkMe, Mashery, and also two companies that were acquired. One was acquired by Intel, one was acquired by Cisco. A lot of experience. And so I'm super excited to talk with you today. So if you could just quickly give us a brief glimpse of your role in
Sure.
customer success.
I'm passionate about customer success. I enjoy that early phase at a company where you have just about found your market product fit and you want to scale the company upwards. That's the point in time when you want your CEO to go to raise money and manage the growth of the company, and you want your VP of product to go back to their day job and build product, and you want your VP of sales to go and get the next 500 or 1,000 customers, and all of a sudden you have a void in a management team to manage existing customers, and that's the point where I like to join companies and help them grow. I've done that now 5-6 times, varying degrees of success. Not every startup succeeds, but I've had a pretty good run with a few of them. You mentioned Free Markets went public, NewScale was acquired by Cisco, Mashery was acquired by Intel, so a fair amount of success. And I think it helped me hone in on some of the critical elements of what make a customer success functions really successful. How do you really make the customer successful and as return derive value to your company in growth and value?
Usually the question that we ask is what has made the biggest impact on churn in your current role? So we usually get a variety of answers. It's either our onboarding process, the playbook that we use, the culture that we've created. But today I want to change it up a little bit, and I want to understand we want to talk about where things are going. So I'm curious, just from your experience, what do you think the next big wave of customer success is?
I think that's a great question, because what we tend to hear from people in conferences or in write-ups recently are consistent way people go at establishing and growing their customer success function. We want the onboarding process to be as quick as possible. We want the ongoing process to focus on relationship and usage. We want to figure out the time to deploy some customer success platforms so we can scale in a better way, right? Lower number of people and more output out of it. But I think that's because the maturity of the function, customer success as a profession, is now at this point where it's not yet, it's past the point of piloting. I think it's pretty well established out there in the marketplace that every company needs a customer success function. That wasn't the case 3-4 years ago, but it's pretty much there now. So the focus in this phase of the customer success maturity is what I call standardization. Can we get a standard process to get things done? And there's a certain playbook to establish a customer success function. The more advanced companies that have standardized, they have their technology, they have their playbooks, they've acquired a number of people and they have roles defined and responsibilities and the processes are going, they mature into the next place, which is integration. How does my customer success function interact with other functions? How do I grow the value from I do what I do to 1 + 1 = 3? If I can work better with the marketing team, can we create better output for the company, et cetera, et cetera. So the two things that I see happening, which I think will be different in the next couple of years from what we've seen in the last 2, 3, 4 years. One, more integration with other functions. We'll see customer success and marketing working better together. Distributing tasks, who does what, a little bit in a better way. We'll also see much more data used in the process of managing customers. We talked about this concept of customer maturity index that I think is a very, very much needed next wave of evaluating customers. Everybody is using customer health score. And customer health score, for the few that maybe are not there yet, is a mechanism to assess the relationship between me, the vendor, and my customers, and predict the trajectory of that relationship. Is it going to churn, renew, extend, right? And that makes a lot of sense, and most companies are using the same factors when they evaluate. How is the usage? How are the relationship? Who is using what, right? Are they paying on time, et cetera, et cetera. But if you think about all of those parameters, they all relate to the interaction between the customer and the vendor. And what they're missing, and this is something that Ralph Whitgen from ProMap and I came onto and wrote a series of blog posts about, what I think most companies are missing is how well does the customer do their job, right? If we are changing from the inward looking, I'm trying to maximize value to me, to an outward looking, let's look at what the customer is trying to get from me, which is not using my product, it's the value they get out of my product. Then there are a few other parameters they need to look at to assess the trajectory of the relationship and what needs to be done. For example, how sophisticated is the process that the customer is using to run their function? Let's assume that you are selling marketing automation. How strong is their marketing team? How many other tools do they have, and do they use them effectively? Are their people really top-notch or kind of mediocre? Are they a one company that's very honed in on the way they do business, or are they amalgamation of business units and companies that have been acquired and are now focused on integrating themselves before they can really take good advantage of your solution, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think people are spending enough time today, because it's hard, on the customer. They are focusing on the interaction between me and the customer. And customer maturity index is a set of indicators on the customer. Once you understand those, the mapping of customer maturity and customer health score opens up a whole new dimension of insight that I think would make playbooks, what should I do in this scenario, what should I do in that scenario, much more comprehensive and much more effective.
This maturity index is really interesting, and it's gotten me thinking more work. And so I know that that's not always the case, but I just want to have you address that in terms of how can you implement this? We're all so busy. Everyone says they have limited resources.
Yeah,
what do you do?
To be perfectly honest, I think you're right. It is more work. So first of all, none of us need to do any work, but our jobs require us to work, right? If you want to do a good job, you try to be smart and effective, right? This will require more work. I think the output is worth it though, right? So there are two things here. One, there are no tools today to measure effectively customer maturity. Ralph and I developed a set of tools. We opened them up. We published them in the blog post, and we told people, whoever wants, and I already emailed this to a dozen people who emailed me and say, hey, can you send me those spreadsheets? I'd like to use them as a benchmark. And we said, by all means, because we didn't plan on branding them or making money out of them. We just develop them and give them out to people for usage. And there's a plan to release them as a set of tools for customer success shortly. So you might see that. So first of all, we have developed some tools, so they help you get some of the way there. You will need to request and obtain more information about your customers. That's a bit of extra work you have to do. And I think at some point, if this catches up and people really see the value, the customer success platform vendors will add it into their platforms alongside customer health score, at which point I'm sure it's going to take off much easier, because then you have everything in one place. Up until then, you'll have to figure out how to get the data. Ralph at Whitgen has created a questionnaire that he is sending to his customers and ask them to create a first pass. A couple of other companies that have started to do that in the last few weeks and told me, based on this presentation and blog post, they've started to do it. Ask their salespeople to provide them insight, collected insights from their customer success managers, put it into a spreadsheet, did the analysis, took them a few hours, and they gave them a baseline, right, a starting point. I think you and I talked about it. I don't think maturity is something that changes overnight. So the frequency of running an analysis on customer maturity is not something you need to do daily or weekly, probably monthly or maybe even quarterly, right? How good is this function at my customer working is not something that changes very quickly. So again, the level of effort required here, I don't think is as high. The level of insight is, so it's probably worth it.
Is there anything you can provide in terms of the actual results? Like, is there any numbers that you can give us or share with us that people who did implement this have made a massive difference?
Not yet. Ralph from ProMap has been able to quantify everything he did in a year or a year and a little bit to go down from about 10% churn to 2.2, which is highly respected. Customer maturity index was one of the activities, obviously, that he did. It's very hard, if you think about the way we work, to associate value to a specific initiative like this. It's one of many items. But everybody I talked to that has implemented customer maturity told me it created an aha moment for them and an aha moment for their management team when they presented it over, oh, I didn't realize we have customers who are in that bucket versus that bucket, and now we need to know what we do about it. Let me give you an example. If you think about customer health score, high, medium, low, for simplicity, right? Then you have one dimension, high, medium, low, and now you think about what to do with it. If you add the dimension of customer maturity, and you have high, medium, low, all of a sudden you have a 3x3 matrix with much more specificity over which playbooks are relevant to which scenario. Take, for example, the customer that you have a high health score with. The relationship are good. They're buying a lot of your software. They've used it a lot, and you have great relations with the executive and low people, working level people. If they're mature, then this is great. But what if they're not mature? What if their function is actually poorly run? They're not ready. They're muddled with integration of a number of other companies they acquire. They don't have time for you. They like you as a person, they like you as a company, they'll keep using you. But if you try to sell them your next version and an expanded contract, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They're not ready for that. The scenario, the playbook here should be retain. Don't overinvest, right? You have scarce number of resources, focus them on somewhere else. Focus them on those companies who have a low health score but high maturity. If you can only expand the relationship with them, tell them what your software does. They are smart people, they run their team well, they'll figure out how they can make value out of you. They're the high likelihood to expand and grow. So faced with scarce resources, and face it, we all do have a limited amount of capacity to get things done, how do you spare your resources appropriately? Customer maturity adds a whole new dimension to the customer health score and can really add value.
This is interesting because it really answers the time piece, because what you're basically saying is if you have this other dimension, you can now focus your resources where they need to be, ultimately saving you time.
If you're building a process for it, for example, you say, let's do it once a quarter, right? It's not a health score that I need on the spot, right? There's a problem, I need to know about it tomorrow. There's once a quarter, and you build it into your probably some kind of a sequence of operating reviews that you do with your team every quarter, then the incremental amount of effort required is probably not very high. But the output, again, can be really, really impactful.
I'm hearing this, I'm excited about it. It makes sense. Help me with the first step, because I still believe you, but I need to test it out. I want to just barely put my foot in the water. What's the first thing that I do?
So I think if you took the tools that we have created as a starting point, and the objective we had when we created those tools, the questionnaire and the assessment tool, is to provide people a starting point. Because it's everybody makes it, let me put it a different way. For the mass majority of people, it's easier to edit something that is there than to audit and start from scratch. So we provided the first step. Maybe it's 50% of the work, maybe it's 80% of the work, I don't know. People will try and then we'll get some feedback and see. Take the tools, figure out what are the characteristics, the area, the bucket you want to measure your maturity on. We suggested 4 of them, and we had a lot of information in the blog about it. The charter, the people, the process, the technology. Fairly simple. In maturity models out there from other places, CMMI from Carnegie Mellon and others, that's the way you see people work. Charter, people, process, technology. Figure out what are the 2, 3, 4, 5 questions you want to ask in each of them. Select a group of your customers. Don't start with everybody. Look at the high-touch ones that you have a lot of information about because you're touching them a lot. There are a lot of people involved. Create a questionnaire, plug the information in, map it against your customer health score, look at the 2x2 or 3x3 metrics that you're going to do, and see if it adds insights to you. If the output that you see from this work, which is probably a few tens of hours of work all in all.
And how many customers is that small sample in your mind?
100.
Okay.
Right?
But of
something
course
that's meaningful. Again, if you do a 3x3 metrics and you have 9 boxes, if you don't have enough numbers of customers in each, you're not going to get any insight.
And real, before you continue, what if you only have 30 to 50 customers? And
Do it
they're
on 30. Do it on 40.
Okay.
The point here is do the work, plot it into that 2x2. If you have very few customers, do a 2x2 as opposed to a 3x3. Right? You have less boxes and more, customers in each. Take a look at that and see, does it add value? Does it add insight? Is the other dimension, right? You already have the health score. If you add customer maturity, that dimension, if it adds value, great, keep on doing it. If you look at it and you're like, I don't know, nothing jumps out at me as doing things differently, my playbooks should probably be the same playbooks, then maybe it's not right for you. Now, maybe you haven't done it right, I don't know, but maybe it's not appropriate. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all.
And so once I have that, and I mean, what is an example of an insight that you've gotten? Like, just paint the picture for us. Say you're at Mastery and...
So a colleague of mine that is now running customer success team at a company that focuses on identifying anomalies. So an AI-based solution to run across massive amount of data and figure out where there are anomalies so you can decide what to do with them on the sales side, on the acquisition side, on the cost side, etc. Mapped his, it's a small startup, few tens of customers, mapped his customers around customer maturity and had a conversation with their board of directors. He said people were eye-opened on understanding how many of their customers are actually not right for them at this point in time. They're not mature enough yet. So now there's a decision to be made and a conversation at the management level. Option number 1, we let them churn. Maybe painful, but if they're not ready for us, maybe we shouldn't burn our resources on them. Option number 2, we stay the course. We let them mature on their own and we need to keep the customers. You can do that, but you can quantify now how much it's going to cost you against that group of customers as opposed to other customers where they're already mature and you can actually grow their business. Option number 3, hey, Mr. CEO, looking at this, we have a group of customers that are not ready. We can create an offering for management consulting to help them get mature. I mean, we understand what they do, maybe we can do that. Or option number 3A, we contact some companies out there that are providing services to these kind of functions, and we have a partnership. And we come to them and say, look, here's a group of customers of ours that we think can benefit from your services, consulting in growing their business. How about we refer them to you? If you improve the way they do their business, they'll be able to use my solutions more. Everybody is happy. Any way you look at it, the management team now has more data, more insight to make these decisions, where in the past, it was a gut feel. I think this customer needs some more love. Based on what? Well,
what does a low maturity customer look like? If you could give us an example so that we can really paint that picture.
So again, if you think about it as charter, people, process, technology, a low maturity customer can be very, very low on either one of those or on all. So one example can be a company that grew by acquisition and there's no centralized team to do what is it that you are selling to, right? So their team, there are multiple different teams fighting or struggling to coordinate among themselves, which make them less likely to gain a lot of benefit from you and much more work for you to sell to different teams as opposed to a centralized one. One example. Another example can be a company that, for different reasons, their technology slows them down. they're on some older services, or they haven't adopted cloud yet, or whatever the situation is. They have a very old CRM, for example. Getting access to their data is really hard. Now, your solution, for whatever reason, right? This is theory, right? Your solution relies on data. Well, if they don't have easy access to data, you're going to bang your head against a wall if you're trying to sell to them. They might be great people, they have lots of money, but if their systems are not set up to help you, is that a customer you're going to, again, spare some of your scarce resources on, or do you want to go somewhere else? Salespeople are using that as a qualification criteria. Do we want to sell them or not? Which makes a lot of sense with two problems. One, the day after the sale is done, we in customer success normally don't retain this information. Hey, they are qualified, we deal with them. Non-qualified, we don't even hear about them. And second is, customers are not binary, yes or no, right? Qualified, non-qualified. They go on some continuum from low to high. The sales team say, okay, on this continuum, up to this point, this we call unqualified, we don't sell them. These ones we sell. But on this continuum, these are low, these are medium, these are high. Why shouldn't we take advantage of that insight to serve the customer better? That's the missing link. And that's something that can be done. Get the information from the sales team, track it, add to it from your customer success team. Now you have a whole new dimension of insight that can help you serve your customer better, which in the end of the day is all we're trying to do.
This has been great. Where can we go to get more information about it? I know you have those 3 blogs on LinkedIn. Is there any other area that we can go?
So the 3 blogs is a good starting point. Ralph Whitgen is about to publish a 4th blog with a very specific case study on ProMap, so more information there. We're going to publish on OpenView Labs the whole set of tools, so people can go in and download the spreadsheets and stuff from there. They can also email me whenever they want, wherever they want, and I'm sending these free of charge just to anybody who's interested in using this methodology and try to help their teams.
That's incredible. Thank you so much.
Sure.
This has
My
been
pleasure.
awesome. Another great episode of Successfully Live.